Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shri Matre Namaha. Welcome to the fourth pole, or if I would put it, if Satya is not considered as a pole, then welcome to the third pole. We completed Srishti, we completed Niyama, and Yoga is the third pole, which is relevant from a overall understanding Sanatana Dharma perspective. So, what do we mean by yoga? Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's actually uh, look at Sundarakanda. Okay, all of you would be familiar with Sundarakanda. You kind of understand it quite well. So let's see Sundarakanda. So it starts with Anjaneya. The very first shloka within Sundarakanda is where Anjaneya climbs the Rishyamukha hill and he chants this shloka, Sasuryaya, Mahendraya, Swayambhuve, etc., etc., etc. But the key point I have highlighted there is that he says, I will fly as a bana of Raghava or Rama. Yatha Raghava Nirmuktam Shara Shvasana Vikramaha. Okay, so that's what he sets, he conveys, and then he kind of sets off in action. So what happens? The very first encounter is that of that with Mainaka Parvata, who wants to help Anjaneya. Anjaneya doesn't know that somebody wants to help him, so he initially suspects it. But then there is a conversation that happens, and Anjaneya realizes that Parvata is out there to help him. But what does Anjaneya really do? Actually, he doesn't continue the conversation. He had a certain lakshya, and therefore he kind of gracefully, respectfully engages with Mainaka and moves on. He doesn't kind of stay there. So that is the first encounter which Anjaneya does. Second encounter is with Surasa. Now Surasa is an intelligent person and wants to test Anjaneya and therefore tries to distract Anjaneya, etc., etc. So Surasa opens her mouth, Anjaneya takes on a big size, and then Anjaneya eventually becomes small and comes out, and Surasa then releases him and tells him to kind of move on. What's happening here? Again, there is an intelligent person with whom Anjaneya is engaging, and Anjaneya uses buddhi to handle her, and he doesn't mind if he has to kind of look smaller in front of her, so he kind of becomes smaller, and but comes out of that situation. His intent is Sita. His intention is not to show his intelligence to Surasa. So that is the second kind of encounter. The third encounter is with an enemy who kind of wants to stop or finish off Anjaneya, and therefore Anjaneya was left with no choice but to fight and defeat that person. So this is the engagement with Anjaneya has with the external engagement with three different kinds of people. He enters Lanka, and in Lanka, again, there is a trio that he is engaging with. Lanka is, ruled by Ravana. There is a Kumbhakarna and there is a Vibhishana. Okay. Now he goes through the various activity of searching for Sita. He goes all over the place. He doesn't find her. He feels disappointed. He intends to even commit suicide. And as about to do suicide, he kind of collects himself and he says, hold on, I should not do suicide. So let me kind of restart. And what does he do? A beautiful shloka comes out. Namostu Ramaya cha Lakshmanaya Devyai cha tasye Janakatmajaya. Yeah. So again, here, unlike the initial shloka where only Rama is referred to, here Sita is also referred to. And the moment he chants that particular shloka, immediately he is able to spot Sita. He attains his lakshya. He kind of goes and talks to her, and of course, everybody knows the story that the Anjaneya, before he meets Sita, who was more tentative, not sure, tense, all of those things completely go away, and the Anjaneya after Sita is the real Anjaneya, which excites all of us since the day we were sort of kids. But if you step back and just see what's the deal that is happening here, what we will realize is that there is an encounter with Triguna in the external world. There is an encounter with Triguna in the internal world. And what do you mean by internal world here? In the sense that Lanka is understood to be an island, and effectively all of us are living like islands, separate individuals cut off from other individuals. And if one therefore views it this way, then it means even within us there is three guna operating, which we all are already aware of. So Ravana is the sort of Rajoguna, Kumbhakarna is Tamoguna, and Vibhishana is Sattva guna. So there are three gunas operating outside as well as inside. Yeah. So that's the interesting aspect of Sundarakanda, that as much as we are reading a story, there is something else that is sort of happening here. So what are the sort of things that are relevant? So I see 6 points. One, that in every action there is an internal drama as well as an external drama. Both happen in parallel. As you are engaging with the external world, there is also an internal world that we need to sort of grapple with. We should align our anubhava both at an adhibhuta and an adhyatma level. So if you take the engagement with the external world, him crossing over the sea, that is the engagement at an at an adhibhuta level. Similarly, the engagement within Lanka is an engagement inside oneself, which is engagement at an adhyatma level. Both happen in parallel. Third, know that the journey towards Satya is a journey towards both Shiva and Uma, yeah, or Mahalakshmi and Mahavishnu. Why do I kind of say it? And that's where I kind of come to the shlokas, that originally when Anjaneya kicked off, he just did stuti of Rama, as he's saying that he's Rama's Bana. Where is Sita? That doesn't come. But the moment he goes through all the cycle of effort, tiredness, all of that happened, then he realizes that the ultimate should be conceived of both as Prakasha and Vimarsha. And the moment Sita's name is also taken, immediately he attains the sort of a goal, as is kind of quite evident. Therefore, know that this journey towards Satya is a journey towards both Rama and Sita jointly, or Mahadeva and Mahadevi jointly. Both should be understood. Prakasha and Vimarsha both are relevant from a aspect of Satya. Until these are synchronized, there is stress in the system, hence the suicidal thoughts of Hanuman. Fifth, once these are in sync, there is Siddhi. And Hanuman is associated with Ashtasiddhi, and all of these become immediately visible to everybody after he meets Sita. But note that even while performing the Siddhi, he keeps on chanting the nama of Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, which means that the Siddhi are for them only, not for demonstrating his sort of prowess and stuff like that. So Sundarakanda therefore becomes a sort of a useful prop to understand yoga, the fourth aspect of dharma, which is, now that you know that you are your innate swabhava is that of Satya, you know how Srishti has happened, you know that how karma and dharma operate. As a yogi, how does one do yoga, which means to do those actions which will take you back to your original sthiti? That's what yoga really means. Okay, so very important slide, captured a lot of it together. So let me just go one by one. So let's take that vyavahara or a lifestyle of somebody who is a normal sansarik, so to speak. Here, as we saw earlier, karma is aligned to one's sanskara. And what is done here? Karma is triggered by raga and dvesha, which is the sort of general element applicable to all of us. And what is the phala of such a lifestyle? So for sort of actions which are aligned to dharma, you acquire punya, and those which are misaligned, you sort of take on to papa. That's the phala of such a sansarik lifestyle. And what is the direction? What is the direction? Meaning, what you gain by this karma phala that comes into your kitty. Effectively, you can move either towards urdhva loka or towards the adhama loka. So if punya is higher, then you can go towards swarga. If papa is higher, you go down towards adhama loka. That's a simple construct which we see Purana after Purana. Then we come to the next kind of lifestyle, which is that of a karma yoga. And here is where in the first one there is no yoga. Yeah? In the second one there is yoga, where karma is aligned to dharma. So there are sort of two aspects. One is at a character level, at a Shila level. So if Yoga Sutra is sort of seen, it talks about Pancha Yama and Pancha Niyama. So Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya and Aparigraha. I won't elaborate the meanings here because it will become too long. I would assume that people who have read the Shastra have some level of familiarity with these terms. So those are the 5 yamas. Shaucham, Santosham, Tapa, Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana are the niyama, within the sort of thing. So what do these do? What is the benefit of living these sort of attributes? Is that you attain Sheela, you attain the right character. So that's the thing that is done. What is secondary, then what is also done is that Pancha Yagna, Mahayagna are performed to. So if you, anybody who is familiar with the Shastra, will know that there is this idea of Pancha Yajna, which is Devata Yajna, doing Nitya Karma for the Devatas, doing Rishi Yajna, which is to read the sort of Shastra written by the various Rishis on a regular basis and live and follow them, do the Pitru Yajna, do the Manushya Yajna, which is fellow human beings, you help them, and of course you do Bhuta Yajna, which is to help all the animals and plants, etc. Now these are the minimum that are prescribed. Of course, if one gets into detail, then each and every topic one can write pages and pages. But because people are familiar here, elaboration is not required. This is what Karma Yoga really means, which is every action is done which is aligned to Dharma. Now, if this is done, what is a phala? So, if you do a sakama, then you get your ichha prapti, which means if the karma is done for kama, which is dharmic in nature, you will get your ichha prapti. But if it's nishkama, then we acquire what is called as chitta shuddhi, which means our shuddhi is getting purified and purified. And fundamentally, the purpose of karma yoga is chitta shuddhi. Okay. Now, if what is the gati or direction? Urdhva loka, certainly, is the gati or direction. But I am making an important statement here that whatever we conceive of or understand as religion, that literally ends here. Okay, people may be familiar with the famous debate which Adi Shankara had with Mandana Mishra, where Mandana Mishra was very clear that Upanishads and all are not important. The Karma Kanda alone is important. Karma aligned to Dharma alone is important. And the ultimate goal is to attain Urdhva Loka, which is Swarga Loka. That was the sort of claim to fame. So that's, you can call it the Purva Mimamsa, is probably the Vedic idea of religion, a Vedic equivalent of religion. But guess what? Whilst religion ends here, Dharma or Sanatana Dharma really begins here. Okay, why do I kind of say that? Because not only Karma Yoga has one part which is to acquire Sheela and do Pancha Mahayagna, etc. These are some aspects which we do because Shastras have told us to do them. But then, once the adequate amount or quantum of Chitta Shuddhi has been acquired, one then gets into what is called as an Upasana Karma. And here, the Puran, the Shastras, the sort of Upanishads prescribe various kinds of Upasana. There is Upasana on Om, there is Upasana on Hiranyagarbha, Upasana on Surya, Chandra, Akasha, one goes on and on. There are hundreds of Upasanas prescribed in the various Paramparas, etc. Now, what's happening here? Because here, there is no sakama, there is no seeking, there is no prayer to get something, there is no prayer to any third person. Upasana is of a different level altogether. So, what is the phala of somebody doing Upasana? They attain their siddhi because whatever they are setting to achieve, the upasanas, there are upasanas geared towards attaining certain kind of siddhis. And here we're not referring to siddhi in terms of normal success like passing exams, etc. The Yoga Sutra actually lists down Anima, Mahima, 8 siddhis which Anjaneya also possesses. And these are the siddhis one will attain if the upasana karma is done in the way it is meant to be done as per the Shastras. But more importantly, upasana karma gives one what is called as jnana yogyata, which means the necessary knowledge about your own innate swabhava as being aligned to satya, that now you can pursue only after upasana is to some extent taken care of, so to speak. Yeah. So jnana yogyata is what you get. You don't become a jnani as yet. You get yogyata. Okay. And what is the gati for such a one? Of course, the gati is urdhva loka only. Yeah, which is all the gandharva loka, pitru loka, all the sort of positive lokas is what one will attain when once leaves the body. But the key point is the direction here is positive itself. But that's not the end goal of Sanatana Dharma, as people here would know. There is something called as Jnana Yoga. Yeah. Now here is where really we get into the heat of the heart of Sanatana Dharma, where one effectively now, having acquired the necessary character, having done all the Nitya Kriya, or having done the Nitya Naimittika karma on a regular basis, perform all the Pancha Mahayajna, doing Upasana basis on a regular basis, one starts living like a Jnani. And living like a Jnani, one can think of Ramana Maharishi, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in the recent times, and many other rishis who kind of lived like a Jnani, which means that they are living as if they are connected with their Paramartha Sthiti. But guess what? They have not still achieved it, and therefore it is still a yoga, which means it is still an effort to attain that particular state. But every lifestyle of theirs is such that, okay, what would I have done now? What should I do now? If that is a question that comes to their mind, they will say, okay, what would Anjaneya have done? Okay, let me do it that way. What would Rama have done? Okay, let me do it that way. What would Devi have done? Let me do it that way. So it's all about trying to live the life of a Jnani, and that trying makes this also a yoga. Okay, and but once Jnana Yoga is sort of reaching its ultimate state of advancement, then one is ready for a Jnana Sthiti Prapti, and Jnana Sthiti is the Sachidananda Sthiti, which we kind of started this whole discussion with. So that is the phala of Jnana Yoga, which is moksha, of course, and the direction is moksha, which means that is the ultimate state that one is moving towards. Okay, so this in a single slide captures the entire journey of yoga, which is effort to regain our Swarupa, is what yoga is all about. Can you imagine Sanatana Dharma without yoga? Yeah. Equally, religion, as it is understood, does not get into Upasana or Jnana Yoga. Why? Because its focus is just to do certain good things. Its focus is on karma alone. But karma alone will, at the best, if you do it sensibly, will give you Urdhva. It will not give you Jnana Yogyata Prapti, and it will not give you Jnana Sthiti Prapti. And therefore, religion is a suboptimal state, earlier state, not the complete deal as far as Sanatana Dharma. And it's for this reason Sanatana Dharma is not a religion. Okay. Now, somebody may say, hold on, all this is good. Understand Sansara Vyavahara, understand Karma Yoga. Understand Karma Yoga has one aspect which is, the Nitya Karma, etc. The other aspect being Upasana. I understand Jnana Yoga, but you missed out something. And what is it? Bhakti Yoga. So, I have a guru who I kind of listen to, which is Paramarthananda ji, and he kind of puts Bhakti Yoga explains Bhakti Yoga in a beautiful way. And he and many other gurus actually say that there are only two yogas. Just like Veda has the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda portion, similarly, yogas are only two, which is Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So what is Bhakti Yoga? So if you kind of look at Bhakti Yoga, for a Sansari, there is no Bhakti, zero, zilch, nothing. Yeah, but for a Karma Yogi, that bhakti is adhama bhakti, which is a lower order bhakti, so to speak, which means they have some shraddha over the shastra, otherwise they won't even be following the shastra. But that bhakti is still done because some text has told me to do it, so I am doing it. It is still not sufficiently advanced into the state of jnana, where one does it because that is our own swarupa, really. Yeah, so it is a adhama bhakti. There is bhakti, but to a shastra's prescription without sufficient knowledge. Then somebody who reaches the upasana state and does upasanas on a regular basis, not for anything but just for jnana, that then becomes madhyama bhakti, because here the knowledge is sufficiently higher, chitta shuddhi has sort of already happened, and therefore one is inching their way towards jnana yogyata prapti, and this is madhyama bhakti. And jnana yoga state is the state of uttama bhakti. So only a jnana yogi is a real bhakta, and others are at various levels depending on what level they have kind of reached. So bhakti yoga therefore is not a separate yoga, but if you understand bhakti yoga in this particular way, then you will find that bhakti is subsumed in everything. It depends on what stage we are in, and therefore the ultimate jnani is the ultimate bhakta. So bhakti therefore is not some emotional liking without knowledge. In fact, such a bhakti is not bhakti at all. Or at best, if one has to be liberal, one will use the word adhama bhakt for them, not a uttama bhakt. Okay, so this actually encapsulates the entire discussion on yoga. So upasana, of course, tends to be sort of complex. So how do we kind of convey it here? Uh, okay, just one point though, I think I missed to convey that particular point, which is to kind of dwell a little more on upasana. That upasana is something which is unique to dharma, where bhavana, in this particular aspect, it's bhavana that is primary here. Because here we take the idea from our body or an object from Prakriti. Yeah, our body could be our own sort of digestive system, etc. One kind of can do upasana on prana, respiration. That could be one aspect of upasana, or one could take something from Prakriti like Surya and do a bhavana on that aspect. Yeah. Now, let's take Surya for example. So Surya is a Laukik Padartha, it's just a body of fire, it's a sort of a ball of fire is one way to kind of describe it, and therefore it's an object of Prakriti only. And using the Devata lens, it is the Devata behind vision in our eyes and hence referred to as Surya Devata in that sort of context. But Surya is also referred to as Surya Bhagwan. Yeah, why? What is the definition of Bhagwan? Only one which has six properties, which is Aishwarya, Dharma, Jnana, Vairagya, Yasha, and Shri. Only if all these six are present, only such a one can be technically referred to as Bhagwan. And Surya is one fascinating nakshatra that fulfills all these attributes from the perspective of our lives on earth, and hence it is rightly referred to as Surya Bhagwan. But can it sort of aid us in our quest for Brahma itself? Here Bhavana comes at play in the sense that we know that Surya is not the Paramatma, but we do a Bhavana or imagine that. And how does Bhavana come into play? So we say, okay, Surya spreads light, Brahma is the source of Jnana. So there is in that sense some commonality between what Surya does and how Brahma is. Surya gives life to all, Brahma is the source of life for all. Without Surya, there is no earth and no beings can even exist. But without Brahma Parartha within us, we do not have any existence at all. Okay? Surya rises, it remains and it sets. Brahma takes the form of Ishvara, who does Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. So if you kind of do Upasana on Surya in this particular way, what you're doing is you're resorting to Bhavana and you're connecting with the Surya, but through that connection, you're effectively developing connection with Brahma itself. Yeah. So therefore, given that Surya is a Laukik Padartha, it becomes an alambana. It is not seen as Brahma itself, but it is like an alambana, a support for visualization of Brahma itself. And note that this bhavana is not about prayer or seeking anything or reverence, or about doing any karma at all. This is just bhavana to gain access to the Brahma Paramartha Sthiti. The bhavana of Surya existing outside in Brahmanda as well as existing within our Hridaya in the Pindanda effectively makes us go beyond the confines of physicality, and we develop connect with Surya as Ishvara and Brahma. Constant banana, constant contemplation in this manner is the upasana. And for one who does upasana in this manner, Yoga Sutra says that we attain Siddhi when we move to the advanced stages of upasana. And this is logical too, because I said here, Siddhi Prapti is what is relevant for upasana. That if we no longer live within the confines of physicality and expand to the level of Surya, at least in Bhavana, we start acquiring the traits of the object of our dhyana, which is Surya. Okay? And therefore, Siddhi comes as a sort of a logical outcome. Shastra reveals the following features that are required by an intense upasaka. First, Shakti is Sarvajnata Shakti. That is something that they gain. Second Shakti is the Nitya Tripti. They are sort of eternally satisfied. The third Shakti is Anadi Bodha, which means one starts knowing everything since the beginning. Fourth Shakti is Swatantrata, which means they lose their sort of dependence on anything. They start becoming freer and freer. What if I am the Surya? One really is not dependent on anything, right? At least from a Bhavana lens. Fifth Shakti is aluptata, meaning there is nothing that is lacking in me, because Brahma is Purna and I am Surya, so I am also Purna. And the last Shakti is Anantata. They become the sort of limitless idea, is what they acquire in their own chitta. But guess what? The sadhaka is not meant to be interested in siddhi at all. These are sort of incidental benefits. And since gaining siddhi is not the goal, and their goal is only jnana yogyata, an upasaka therefore ignores this and moves on to the next level, which is jnana yoga. Okay, so this is the way one has to sort of understand how this whole thing sort of operates. So therefore, to summarize, the key thing to learn from this slide is that all words have a certain maryada and they need to be used appropriately. So puja, which is done in the karma yoga initial stages, okay, it's a karma. Remember, it's a karma. Upasana is a bhavana. Jnana yoga is a anubhava. Okay, bhakti applies in all three levels, but in variations as a sort of a hierarchy. So if we translate all these words as worship and prayer, we miss the depth and significance inherent in the usage of these words and may therefore confuse ourselves. Most importantly, from this chart, it should become clear that Sanatana Dharma is not a religion, as kind of talked about earlier itself. Okay, so hopefully yoga is sort of understood completely. Let's kind of move on to the next slide, which is the slide where I just gave some easier examples of upasana. So if you take the first shloka in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it says Urdhva Moolam Adhashakam. So what is kind of conveyed here, that Urdhva is the Akshara Brahma, okay, the sort of source from where everything else is sort of come about, the Satya Paramartha Sthiti. Ishvara, Urdhva Moolam Adhashakam. Then Guna is all the sort of the thing that is roots of the tree. Veda are the leaves. Vishaya are the sort of phala that come. Okay, karma bandhana are the sort of branches that come out and create more and more karma. Now, if one is able to do bhavana on the ashwatha tree in this particular way, one is actually not praying or worshipping or seeking anything. One is trying to look at a tree and using bhavana trying to reach the ultimate. So this is a sort of a simple example of an upasana. If you take another sort of example, so one may go to some temple, one where one may see this image of Sri Krishna. So one may see a beautiful Sri Krishna playing and one may just bow down and come out. But an upasaka sees this very thing differently. Firstly, he sees the sort of tilaka there, and again those familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, there is the shloka in the 15th chapter which says Yadaditya Gatam Tejo. Yeah. So if this is taken as Aditya, Jagat Bhasayete Khilam, which kind of spreads out everywhere. Yat Chandramasi Yachagno. So these two, okay, at the marks on the chest, one can be likened as Chandra and one can be likened as Chandramasi Agni, Chandra or Agni, which is Agni and Soma. Again, those familiar with to some extent would have heard the Guru say, Agni Somatmakam Jagat. This whole Jagat, okay, is Agni and Soma which have come together. Okay. Further down, one sees this thing that is tied to the waist, which emits a sound. So this ornament that is worn around the at the below the chest, and as Krishna walks, it makes a madhura sound that can be seen as nada. So the same image an upasaka is seeing, but the upasaka is seeing this as the the sort of sign of Satya Sthiti, and this Satya Sthiti has become Vishwa, where Agni and Soma have come together. But Satya has also got a nada, which is Vyakta nada, could be Om, or it could be Avyakta nada, which is the Brahma nada. And when the upasaka bows down to Krishna, keeping these principles in mind, then the very same image which the upasaka is seeing, where bhavana is a more stronger component than seeing the image as an image of its own, that's the stage for an upasaka That's the sort of a mind space of an upasaka. So upasaka is a lot more, upasana is a lot more complex, but I thought given that that is something unique to Sanatana Dharma, I thought I should spend a few words to talk about this in slightly more detail. Okay, so what is the sthiti attained at each particular stage? One who acquires Shila, again, when one sort of refers to various Shastra, one should understand that each and every shloka that one comes across, which part of yoga is it connected with? So, where Danam, Priyavak, Sahitam, Jnanam, Agarvam, what is it? Dana should be done with sweet words, Jnana with humility, Shaurya with compassion, and Dhana with renunciation. Similarly, Yoga Sutra has Maitri towards happy people, Karuna towards those in distress, joy towards virtuous, and equanimity towards non virtuous. Okay, one who is able to do all of these attains a prasada bhava in one's own mana. Now, when these shlokas are being talked about, effectively they are referring to the Shila aspect within the yoga scheme of things. Then Panchamahayagna. So Krishna says, okay, therefore always perform well the action that is to be performed without attachment, because by performing action without attachment, person attains the highest. Similarly, O Bharata, just as the envious who are attached to the results perform action, so do the wise also perform action. So again, karma, 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 which is coming in the third and fourth chapter, there is a lot of push towards karma, which is nitya karma, naimita karma, and do it without attachment is what Krishna is stating. Again, there is a reference to the pancha yajna aspect within the yoga chart that I kind of showed earlier, that even these should be performed in a asanga way. Third, upasana karma. And our sort of Gita again has shlokas which says that one who has his mind self-absorbed through yoga, sarva bhutas thathatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani, etc., etc. One who has the drishti of samadarshana, everywhere see this atma existing in sarva bhuta, and sarva bhuta is in his atma. Now this is the state of an upasaka. Even among the yogi who is absorbed in me with his mind and with Shraddha seeks me, he is considered by me to be the best of all yogi. This is from an Upasana Karma perspective. These shlokas have to be understood. Last, a Jnana Yogi, that he and this bulk of these come in the 13th chapter and to some extent 18th chapter, where Krishna says, where he perceives the apparent independent separatedness of all beings resolved into one. Remember the Srishti piece where lot of differentiation is emerging from the fundamental starting point, after which there is differentiation, but jnana brings us face to face with the fact that the jnani is able to make that differentiation, and because the jnani is able to see guna, and the panchabhuta, all of them in its root component, therefore one is able to see them as separate, and therefore able to move towards jnana in a easier way. So jnana yoga shlokas are again to be understood. So those who know through jnana chakshu the distinction between the kshetra and kshetrajna, the annihilation of the matrix of beings, they reach the parama. Yeah, so they reach the param. So understand that whenever we read any shloka, connect it with one stage of the upasana chart, of the yoga chart that we saw earlier, and if one is able to do it, then one will not get lost in the shastra. This peg of Shila, Pancha Mahayagna, Upasana Karma, and Jnana Yoga will keep us glued to Dharma without getting distracted. I think that is the reason why this chart that I had kind of put together, I feel that it's very helpful. All inputs from Swami Paramarthananda ji, without whom that chart could not have been put together. Okay. This is, of course, a casual slide. Escape velocity versus cyclical motion. Those familiar with 16th chapter know that there is something called Daivi Karma and Asuri Karma. So, those who perform Asuri Karma, which are backed by Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, when these become the driver, then effectively they are Asuri Karma, which take us or suck us further towards the zone of Rakshasa. But if one is able to perform Daivi Karma, which is Dharmic Karma, from this one is able to attain the escape velocity mode, and one can then get out of this cycle and move towards a higher state of being. So it was a sort of a easy slide. I thought everybody will find it useful also. Okay, so the journey towards moksha sthiti is from sthula to sukshma. I thought for upasakas or for yogis, this is very useful that there is a hierarchy. So the most sthula aspect is the vishaya, like a samosa, table, clothes, etc. Sukshma, then the vishaya, is the karmendriya. Sukshma then karmendriya is jnanendriya. Sukshma then jnanendriya is prana. Sukshma then prana is manas. Sukshma then manas is tanmatra. Sukshma then tanmatra is ahankara or asmita. Asmita is a term used within the Yoga Sutra. Sukshma then ahankara or asmita is buddhi. Sukshma then buddhi is avidya. Avidya is that mula prakriti state where I kind of said that once Paramatma takes on to the wearing the dress of mula prakriti, effectively they are covering themselves with maya, and then Ishvara comes about, right? So Sukshma then buddhi is avidya. That is the subtlest component for a jiva. If one is able to cross avidya, then one reaches the purusha state, and sukshma of all is the purushottama, which is the brahma state. So this is useful from a yoga lens, that as long as one knows this hierarchy and one is slowly able to connect with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, eventually the journey towards the paramartha sthiti becomes easier to kind of comprehend. Yeah, as one develops sukshma drushti, one expands towards infinity. Actually, this brings us to the end of yoga. And to put it all together, again, this is a Sahyog Chahiye slide. It's a thukka. People can sort of throw stones on me. But why I felt this is important as a sort of a base level sadhaka without having expertise in many domains is that only if I compare Sanatana Dharma with some other disciplines that are sort of in vogue within the universe, within our own world, then one can understand the difference between Sanatana and the others, and therefore some of the conclusions of some of the other disciplines can be appreciated because the scope of some of the other disciplines is slightly different from that of Sanatana Dharma, whose focus is slightly different. So don't throw stones on me. Thought experiment है. So आप देखो मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ. So if you take any discipline, ideally, and because Sanatana Dharma we talked about in terms of Satya, Srishti, Niyama and Yoga, Sanatana Dharma obviously has all four, yeah, as we have elaborately sort of discussed. If you take another one, see, enlightenment values, the European enlightenment driven values, which were cultivated, albeit with lots of thought process and thinking, etc., and well intentioned, and it's sort of served the world in its own way. But the question is, if I rationally ask the question, does it talk about Satya? No. Does it talk about Srishti? To my knowledge, no. Does it talk about Niyama? So, to some extent, yeah, we can say yes, because it has these ideas of equality, liberal values, and it has some of these other ideas. Again, I'm not an expert, but from whatever little I've gathered, this is how I'm kind of seeing it. It has certain bases which eventually have formed their way into the constitutions of many countries, and there is some method to the madness. So, they certainly have Niyama. But again, does it have anything to do with yoga? If there is no Satya, then there won't be any yoga, because yoga is a journey towards Satya. So if there is no Satya, there is no yoga itself. So any wisdom that the enlightenment, so-called enlightenment values give will be suboptimal from a Sanatani perspective. Let's take the popular religion idea, and I did talk about the popular idea of religion, where I said that religion stops at karma only. Okay, so does it have a construct of Satya being the Paramartha Sthiti as my own Swabhava? No, at best it talks about some sort of a god, but it doesn't talk about Satya being our own Swabhava. So to if I'm slightly in a good mood, I will say there is half description of Satya, but not detailed enough. Okay, what about Srishti? It has some idea of Srishti. Yeah, I haven't sort of captured it, but it has some idea of Srishti. It has some detail that this happened, this got created, that got created. But again, is it connected with Satya in a deeper way? No, it is just listing out what happened. It doesn't talk of guna, it doesn't talk of panchabhuta, it doesn't talk of how every part of, so religion, if you see, is focused, most of the religious talk is only focused about humans. Yeah, that's all. It doesn't talk of environment, it doesn't talk of animals, it doesn't talk of water, it doesn't talk of many things actually. So its Srishti is also a suboptimal one. Niyama, of course, are there. Lots of rules, do this, do that, etc. are there. But again, does it have yoga? If Satya is ill-defined, how can yoga be fully defined? Yeah. At best, it has, as I said, aspects like, you know, the Nitya Karma, Naimita Karma. Those aspects are there. It doesn't have Upasana. Yeah. And it doesn't certainly have Jnana Yoga aspects. What about again capitalism, communism, some of these isms that we are seeing over the last 200-300 years? Obviously, no idea of Satya, no idea of Srishti. They don't care about it. They only care about humans and the prakritic aspects of human life. It has obviously lots of niyama. That's the corpus littered with some ideation in terms of what should be the niyama for an ideal capitalistic output or an ideal communistic output. Yeah, obviously it won't have yoga. Where there is no satya, there is no yoga. पॉपुलर साइंस एंड दिस इज़ अ डेंजरस टेरिटरी औकात ही नहीं है मैं इसके बारे में क्या बात कर रहा हूँ बट नो हार्म इट्स डन इन जेस्ट सो व्हाट अबाउट साइंस again certainly there is this idea it's still checking it out, right? It's still a work in progress. So there is still no answer as to how the universe happened, but there is some construct. A lot of work has been done and lots of aspects have been discovered. So but that ultimate state, whether it's a swabhava, obviously doesn't get into that space today. Yeah, it obviously has an amazing and detailed conception of Srishti, much more detailed than what probably the Sanatana Dharma texts themselves talk. So, fascinating insight and work done there over the last couple of centuries on this particular aspect. Niyama, of course, it has. It has in detail talked about all aspects of the universe in terms of how each and every aspect behaves. Whatever it has encountered, it studied them thoroughly. It continues to study them thoroughly, and therefore the aspects and rules that govern Srishti are covered in fair amount of detail. But yoga, again, challenged here because if the world has begun from a sort of a you know not from consciousness but from matter, then the question of attaining to the state of matter will not make sense at all, right? So therefore yoga does not form part of the discussions in popular science. So I thought this is a good way to probably look at Sanatana, that some of the answers and directives that we see in Sanatana come out of a comprehensive understanding of all those four aspects as relevant from a Sanatana Dharma perspective. But some of these other disciplines have their pluses, but they are not complete enough, and therefore they seem like a suboptimal conclusion for a Sanatani. Okay, so if this is good, this is clear, then should we come out, because the whole intent of this exercise was to define Hinduism in a sort of a fresh manner. So there's a lot of word here. More intelligent people can simplify it further. But what I have put together based on these videos that I have compiled so far, so I'm saying that Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism is a Jnana Vijnana Parampara centered around Brahma. It's centered around Brahma as the Adhara and Sanatana Satya of Vishwa and everything within it. So keeping Brahma as the core, it conveys Jnana in three broad principles: Srishti, Niyama and Yoga. And throughout millennia, rishis who've had Anubhava of Brahmasthiti as their own Swarupa have recorded and conveyed their Anubhava in these three categories. These Anubhava are recorded in various Shastra, which came to be referred as Shastra, which are referred to by the Hindus. A Hindu therefore learns and applies the paribhasha available in these Shastras to live life with the intent of regaining connect with one's own Swarupa. This is the definition of Hinduism rather than the constructs that I kind of shared earlier, either the nonsense line that it's a Hinduism is a way of life, or some of those other websites showing a lot of stuff. Much of those wordings creates a lot of confusion. To me, this is a good construct for me, and the whole intent of putting all these slides together was to convey this definition to see if it will help the sadhakas and make them help them being connected with dharma. Okay, so to conclude this particular video, I am sharing again what I had shared somewhere earlier, that this is the image that I would like the sadhakas to take away if it helps them retain their connect with Sanatana Dharma on an end-to-end basis. Both the image on the left-hand side or the right-hand side image can be sort of put as a peg, and then journey or navigating the journey of Sanatana becomes a lot easier. Okay, so thank you very much. You've come a long way. Thanks for bearing with me. What am I going to do next is a reflection on some of the ideas that we have gained over the last four videos. That again will be slightly long, but the intent is that having learnt all of this, how do we view many ideas that are connected with dharma and how do we engage with it? That is the intention. I like that part of the discussion a lot, of course. I hope you guys will like it too if you have the patience to kind of stay with me. So for now I will pause. Thank you very much.